Hello and welcome to my second video from MV Nordstjernen, and this will be the first real vlog, day one of my cruise on this beautiful ship. And as you can see on the map, we start in Svalbard, in the city of Longyearbyen, and our destinations today are Grumant and the Ymerbukta. I will show you later on what kind of places these exactly are. But we start somewhere completely different. We start in the city of Longyearbyen at the Radisson Blu Hotel. There I stayed one night, that was already included in the cruise, and at around 9 o'clock we got picked up by a coach, and then we made a little excursion, because round about at the same time the Nordstjernen also arrived, and of course there was the disembarkation first, and in the meantime we made an excursion and left the city of Longyearbyen and visited one of the most famous sites, the polar bear sign. And now we leave the part of the city that you can visit on your own, because behind this sign you need to have a gun. This is because of the polar bears, they can appear everywhere on Svalbard. In the city there's always a possibility to hide in cars or in buildings, therefore cars and buildings never get locked. In the unlikely case that you will see a polar bear in the city, you can go in any car or in any house and hide there, but outside of the city boundaries you need to be armed or in a group, and in this case our tour guide was armed. Of course these guns will never be used, they are only for the worst case of emergency, but there are very strict rules on how to use these guns. Our first stop was Camp Barents, and there we first met some local huskies. And yes, they are on a chain, but these are not house dogs, these are more like farm animals. And this is the way how you keep them when they are not doing their job, which of course is to pull the sledges, and that's what they love. And they love running, and if they would not be on a chain, they would immediately run somewhere, run after the next animal that they see. So there you need to be careful and have them on a chain or in their house or in a cage. And of course, as you can see, they are very nice animals. They really loved our visit, and we were cuddling with them for quite a while, and then we went inside one of the huts. There we got a coffee and a little snack and a presentation about polar bears, and then we left Camp Barents again. You also saw our guide that was armed. And then it was time to head back to Longyearbyen. On the way there we also saw a lot of these former coal mines. Longyearbyen was founded for whale hunting later on because of coal mining, but nowadays there's only one active coal mine left. And here now you can see what the huskies are loving, what they are doing, what is kind of their job is pulling the sledges. And of course in summer when there's no snow, they have a replacement, it's like a sledge with wheels. And here we are back in Longyearbyen, the biggest and most important city of Svalbard. Our next destination was the Svalbard Museum. It's a museum about the history of Svalbard and Longyearbyen, and there is one tradition. You're supposed to take off your shoes or wear shoe covers inside, which is because it used to be a coal mining city, and the workers from the coal mines always had dirty shoes, and therefore they always asked them to take off the shoes or wear shoe covers, and they still have this tradition. And in the museum we saw some of the animals that we would like to see in the wild now. And that's why we now can finally go to our ship, the Nordstjernen, going past the coal power station. The green building is the old one, and this is the new and active power station. And now finally, here we are. We arrived at the beautiful Nordstjernen. And the name Nordstjernen, that's Norwegian and means pole star or north star. And now it's finally time to step on board. And this is my huge cabin. Yes, that's all of it. 3 square meters, 2 meters long, 1.5 meters wide. Actually, it's just a room with 2 beds and a sink and no own bathroom. And that's about it. But I can tell you, that is more than enough. Then you will just spend time there sleeping. And while sleeping, of course, it doesn't matter if the room around you is big or small, and sleeping is the absolutely only thing that you will do in your cabin. The rest of the time you will be outside. And here you can see some jellyfish. There were a lot of them, surprisingly, this far up north. I was not expecting to see that much jellyfish. And then it was time to leave our docking location. Already at 1 o'clock we left Longyearbyen, and there was another ship. It was laying in the roads, and it was the Ocean Diamond. It's looking much newer and younger than our ship, but it actually is also one of the oldest cruise or expedition ships still sailing. So I wanted to take a few pictures of it, and then I realized that we're gonna sail around it, so I was quite happy to take a few pictures from different angles. But then at some point I started to wonder a little bit why we're going completely around it. We were like circling it. And then I realized that the Ocean Diamond was hoisting their anchor and moving towards our docking location. So in the end it turned out that we were just swapping the positions because we were still missing a loading of food. And of course we cannot start our cruise without food. But as the Ocean Diamond had our docking location, and this time we needed to bring all the food in with the tender boats. That of course took a while. And here we see a helicopter. I think it's a Russian one, because in Svalbard are not only Norwegian cities but also Russian cities, mainly Barentsburg, and I think that's where this helicopter came from. And here we have another view of Longyearbyen and of the Ocean Diamond that was leaving its position now to go to our docking place, and then it was time for the safety drill. And after that we finally had all food on board and was time to go. And our first destination today was Grumant. Grumant is an abandoned Russian mining city. It was abandoned many years ago, but a few buildings are still there. Of course in a very bad state, but they are still visible. And here you can also see the beautiful landscape of Svalbard. There are almost no trees, and you also won't see many plants at first sight, but if you look closer you will see all of those colors. And this is of course because there actually are a lot of plants, but they're all very small. We will see it later on in the next video a bit better. So it's not a dreary place as you might expect it. It is actually very beautiful and a colorful place. And here we see the first buildings of the former city Grumant. Grumant was abandoned in 1965, and as I said, it used to be a Russian mining town. And as it was not profitable anymore, they abandoned this place in 1965. And a few buildings are still existing. Grumant had up to 1,106 inhabitants at its best time. And we sailed past Grumant. Of course there's no harbor or place where we could dock, so we were just seeing it from the ship. And our next destination was Bukta. That would translate to Coles Bay, and Coles Bay is also a part of Grumant. It was the harbor of Grumant, and these wooden buildings that you can see here, they are part of a mine railway that connected Grumant and Bukta. But of course also this mine railway is abandoned in a very bad shape, so you could not even follow the track if you would be walking here, because we will later on see a bridge and then you can see how bad the shape is Here you have the bridge. You can see this is completely destroyed. And also the buildings of Ymerbukta are mostly destroyed, as you can see here. But also here a few buildings survived. And also in Ymerbukta we did not stop, we just sailed past it, and now we're turning and we're gonna cross the Isfjord. The Isfjord is one of the biggest fjords in the world, and we are now going to sail across it to the other side. Here you can also see it on the map, and on the other side is Ymerbukta. And Ymerbukta, which would translate to Ymer Bay, like Bukta is bay. And there we will see our first glacier of this cruise. Of course we will see a lot of them, but this will be the first one. And even before we arrived we spotted the first animals. And this is also your main occupation on the ship, spotting and watching animals. Of course you will see a lot of birds. There are many different birds. Most of them are different kinds of seagulls. But of course there are also a few animals ashore. But before we see the animals, we have a possibility to listen to the beautiful old engine of the Nordstjernen. So this was an exhaust air duct. And now we are finally slowly approaching Ymerbukta, and some guests spotted the first reindeers, but they were so far away I could not see them. They were just visible with a very good binoculars or very good camera. But a few minutes later I also saw some reindeers. You can see them here, but even with full zoom on the camera they are really hard to spot, but you can see a few of the antlers on the horizon. And then we were approaching the glacier, and it is a very special glacier because it's a very inactive one. You can see how active a glacier is on the amount of ice that's drifting in front of it, because if it's very active there is a lot of ice, and here was almost no ice. So it means that there's not a lot of ice breaking off of it, and therefore this glacier has a very unique look. And we will see it in the next videos when we can compare it to other glaciers. Then you will see that this one is looking completely different. And of course it was very impressive to see this huge glacier, because they are way bigger than, for example, the glaciers that you can see in the Alps. But this will change because this place is extremely affected by climate change. Here it is 4 times stronger or faster than in the rest of the world. So the glaciers are unfortunately melting very fast. And then it was time for a dinner with a view of the glacier, and after that we left the Isfjord, and there was another ship in front of us called Planksius, another expedition ship that was going the same direction as we did, but most probably a little bit longer because our expedition cruise was very short, only 4 days on the ship. And most expeditions here will take 1 or 2 weeks. And my expedition was in end of August and beginning of September, and this is the time where these expeditions get a little bit cheaper because your chances to see polar bears and other animals get lower. But it has also one advantage, because now the sun starts to set again. Of course in summer here the sun will never set. They'll have the midnight sun, but now the sun was starting to set again, and that meant that we had sunsets that lasted for several hours. On most days the sunset started around 8-9 o'clock in the evening and lasted at least till midnight, mostly a little bit longer. But this is actually something you should consider whilst booking your cabin, because if you have an outside cabin, most of the time there will be some light coming in from outside. So if it needs to be completely dark for you to sleep, I would recommend booking an inside cabin. But still you won't sleep that much, just because you always have the feeling that you could miss something outside if you go to sleep. And here we also see 2 birds that like to fight each other. It's the Arctic skua and the kittiwake, and we will see this several times on our cruise, that these 2 birds are fighting. And here we can see Barentsburg. This is the Russian settlement here on Svalbard. here you can see this white stripe in the background, and that is actually rain. There was a small rain shower coming, just like 5 minutes, but it led to an even more beautiful sunset and light. And of course, if you have the combination of rain and sun, there will be a rainbow. So we had a beautiful sunset and a rainbow, and this was the perfect ending for the first day on board of our beautiful Nordstjernen. And after the rain shower, I thought it will be now the perfect time to go to sleep, but it just kept being extremely beautiful outside and there was always something to see, so I stayed a little bit longer and longer and longer. And then we spotted some more animals, because there are not only the birds and the animals ashore, there of course are also some animals in the water, and we were so lucky to actually see already 2 of them on the very first day. And it started with some dolphins. It was not like in the movies, that jumping right in front of the bow of the ship or very close, therefore you need to be really lucky to see this, but it was still amazing to see them even though they were a bit further away. And here they are, the dolphins. Of course they are quite far away, but you can see them very well jumping out of the water. So this was very impressive. And we should not forget, we are still on day 1 of this cruise, so this all happened on the very first day. And actually it was just half a day on the ship, and we already saw many birds, an abandoned Russian mining town, a glacier, and now even dolphins. And a beautiful sunset. But that was not it for the day. We got even more lucky, because then we even saw a whale. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you what kind of whale it was, because you will not see more than what we can see in the video here. You will just see the whale blowing and the fin of the whale, because except for the humpback whale, they will not come further out of the water than what you can see here. So here you really need knowledge about the animals to find out what kind of whale that was. And then I finally managed to go to sleep, and that's it for day 1 on board of the Nordstjernen. And in the next video we will continue with day 2. Here you can see the name of the music and when my next English video is planned. And as always, I would like to say thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed the video, and if you liked it, please consider to subscribe, like or share a video link.